Now, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our very first speaker today. We have had the luxury of knowing Dr. Paoletti for years, and he has participated in webinars and our podcast. So, Dr. Gabriel Paoletti is the Director of Human Performance Optimization Integration and HBRC in support of the Advanced Research for Military Optimization Readiness and Rehabilitation Consortium for Health and Military Performance, a center at the Uniformed Services University in Bethesda, Maryland. He oversees the strategic and operational components of delivering comprehensive health and performance education on total force fitness and human performance optimization to the Department of War and national security community. Over the past 15 plus years, Dr. Paoletti has applied the latest human performance research to create and lead over 400 distinct human performance optimization and leadership development programs for audiences throughout the world, ranging from leaders at the Pentagon, Army, Marine, Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, service members to Fortune 500 companies, professional athletes, CEOs, and government leaders. Under his leadership, his team has officially selected to develop holistic human performance curricula for half of the U.S. Armed Forces. Dr. Paoletti graduated from St. Joseph's University with a double major in economics and philosophy, graduating first in his class in both majors. He received a Master's of Applied Positive Psychology from the University of Pennsylvania and his Doctor of Education in Leadership from Creighton University. Dr. Paoletti has no financial interests to disclose. And now, without further ado, we will turn things over to Dr. Paoletti.
Thank you so much, Kelly. It's great seeing you. I saw you in the chat, but Jenna, thank you so much for the introduction. I just have to say, anytime I get to work with CDP or just this community in general, it's always super fun and truly grateful for this opportunity.
Well, Gabe, now that's recorded, so we've got
Oh,
that
no.
recorded for future use. So thanks again.
Yes. All right. So we're going to dive in and we're looking at how do we help not only ourselves to kind of optimize stress in challenging times, but especially looking at how can we help one another to be able to optimize stress in challenging times. And they already did the disclosures for me. If I do mention any brand names, which I have a tendency to do, I will try not to. But if I do, I apologize. And it's just I guess, my personal, what was I going to say? My personal endorsement, obviously not an endorsement of the DoD or chat. I'm trying to just add, there we go. I'm just going to add something into the chat. So in terms of logistics, we are going to be using Poll Everywhere. It will be a slightly different Poll Everywhere, which I just put into the chat. And I would like you all to be able to either pull up this on your desktop and have this up throughout the training, or you can use your phones and keep that up. But this is going to be the one that we'll be using for the next hour or so. And part of the reason is, as we're going through this, I really am going to ask for each of you to share your own examples, your own stories, your own situations, because part of it will enlighten each of us in understanding how other people see things. It might give us ideas that are true for ourselves that we didn't realize or might not have seen in the same way. But also, we only see things through our perspective. So by you sharing your examples and stories and all the different information that you're adding in, it also helps us to understand how other people might be seeing this content. So to begin, I just want you in a word or phrase to define leadership. How would you define leadership? And upvote any of the answers that you agree with. And take your time, just kind of take a look at those. And as you're doing those, continue on. I just kind of want to set the environment through which we are going through this training. The APA does a Stress in America survey every year, and I have to say the numbers are staggering. The 2023 Stress in America survey basically found that we are not handling stress well at all, especially the younger adults, the 18 to 34 level. were almost 50% of them, 1 in 2, saying that they were so stressed over the last month that they couldn't function. 60% saying they were completely overwhelmed by their stress. Close to 70% saying they've been so stressed that they can't focus, and close to 70% saying they're not receiving the support that they need. And this is the other part. So the stress is big. But the most recent Stress in America survey looked at relationships and what is the role that other people have and us having that support and helping us to manage our stress. And around 3 in 5 adults reported that they do not talk about stress with others because they don't want to burden others. And nearly half said they wish they had someone to help manage their stress. And the research of stress is pretty clear. Often we see it as an individual pursuit, but truly it is a team sport. Human beings can get through really, really stressful experience and times on their own, but we are way better at doing that when we know that there are other people within our lives that have our back. When we know that there are others that we can be sure of, that are in it with us, that we can turn to. And when we believe that stress is bad or that I need to go through it alone, it makes sense that we would isolate ourselves. But loneliness is a major issue, not just, I mean, in general, it's a major issue, but especially when it comes to stress. Because one of the issues with loneliness or isolation, so you can be objectively lonely without question. Like if you didn't interact with anyone within a week, you are lonely. But the sad thing, I mean, there's a lot of sad things, but one of the sad things about loneliness is you can have the belief that you're lonely. You can have the belief that you're going through it alone and there's nobody there, when there are people there that want to support you, that want to be there for you, that want to be a part of your team that's helping you through. But there's a disconnect. If we don't reach out to ask for help, then it's hard for them to bring us in to help, and vice versa. So part of this is helping us to reflect, what can we do to make sure that we have the community of support to be taking care of ourselves, because all of your professions are incredibly stressful and incredibly difficult. So how can you make sure that you have that support? But also, what can we do within your roles, but just in your day-to-day life, to be able to impact the stress of others and create that community of support? So part of this is leading upward. And when we look at the objectives, part of what we're looking at is, what can we do to lead others? What's a skill that we can use to develop better relationships to help manage stress? And then how can we develop that team for ourselves? And we're going to actually start, this might be a little bit different, but we're going to start with, what is the leadership? Because I realize that this is the better frame to go forward, and then we'll dive into those skills. And as you mentioned, many of you said influence. So influence is probably in the literature the most popular definition of leadership. John C. Maxwell, one of the most highly cited authors on leadership, often says leadership is about influence, nothing more and nothing less. So this is my question. If leadership is about influencing others, is this person a leader? I'm going to say yes. We all likely have been in a room, been in a meeting where that person in the back of the room with their arms crossed, this is stupid. Will this bald guy ever stop talking? Like, what is this? That influences us. And is it effective? Well, it's effective in that it really is powerful in draining the energy out of us and everyone around us. Another quote, and this is probably my favorite quote about leadership, is that we are all leaders and we are leading all the time. And part of what I want you to think about, and all of us have likely experienced this, is that it's not just in terms of our role, it's everywhere we are going. In every environment we are in, we're either elevating those around us, we're kind of mundane, or we're deflated. My guess is all of you could think of some, like when I saw Kelly, it gave me a boost of energy. And I haven't seen or talked to her in years, but just seeing her name and her saying hello gave me that boost of energy. My guess is all of you can think of somebody in your lives that if they walked into the room right now would make you feel full, would make you feel seen, would make you feel heard, would make you feel like I'm not going through this alone. There's somebody else here in it with me. All of us likely can think of people that it's as my brother once said about my cousin-in-law, he's about as much fun as an empty seat. Meaning like he's not good or bad, he's just kind of an empty seat. Like he's just there, that mundane level. And all of us have likely been it, and all of us can think of people where they might be there and they're not elevating us, they're not bringing us down. And all of us can likely think of somebody that if they walked in the room right now, we would feel empty. We would feel like not fully there, that it's just dragging the energy out of us and getting in our way. So part of what this is thinking about how can we be those elevating leaders for the people around us? Because the impact of this is unreal. So this is a lot of the work from Kim Cameron, also Wayne Baker. Kim Cameron's with the University of Michigan, their organizational psychology programs. But this is what they found, that when people have someone that they refer to as an elevating leader in their lives, it leads to long-term performance and innovation, greater team cohesion and learning orientation. People enjoy and are more engaged within their job. It gives them overall greater well-being and social support. And this is the one that really hit me as a leader, that when they have someone in their lives that they believe that they're interacting with as an elevating leader, it enables them to have stronger family relationships at home. So I want you to think about that, like that you can have the impact in just the way that you're interacting with others in terms of being able to elevate their relationships, their family relationships at home. So if you're not skeptical, you should be. That seems, in my mind, ridiculous that we can have that impact. So part of what we're going to do is test the science and help us to figure out how could this be. And part of this has to do with the energy that we are providing others. Wayne Baker did a lot of research on this. And basically what he found is that when we are an elevating leader, when we have it, he refers to it as positive social energy, that this type of energy is life-giving and contagious. And the example Kim Cameron uses around this is the heliotropic effect. I don't know if any of you are botanists, I'm not, but I'm going to butcher this metaphor. But basically, we all know that plants grow into the what? Plants grow into the light, right? Well, it turns out all living things grow into the light. All living things grow into the things that give us life, that give us energy. Like I want you to imagine right now, just kind of put yourself in an area where you feel at your best, where you're like a plus 10. My guess is none of you are in a dark cave alone. My guess is most of you, wherever you are, whatever you're envisioning, it's sunny, because that gives us life. My guess is most of you are somewhere near water, or at least can see water, because that gives us life. My guess is maybe a few of you are alone, but most of you are likely not alone. That whether you're with someone that you love or with people that you love or in a community that you love, because all of these things give us life. And what's really cool about this type of energy is that mental energy, over time, it deteriorates. Physical energy, emotional energy, over time, it drains. But this energy is life-giving. And as we spread it, it gives us more and more and more energy. It's basically that upward spiral. So part of what we want to figure out is how can we live this out and how can we be this? Because the research shows that this type of energy and having these people in our lives is most important when things are tough, when things are uncertain, when things are complex and ambiguous. Myself, I work for Armor Champ, and we run the HPRC team. And we do trainings. We do a lot of virtual trainings like this. And I would say prior to 2020, we would get 3 or 4 stress-related trainings a year. We've gotten 50 plus since then. Turns out people are a little on edge. Having these people in our lives now is more important than ever. So let's test the science. So what I want each of you to do is to think of somebody in your life that you would say is an elevating leader. That if they stepped into the room right now, and it doesn't need to be in the position of a leader, like meaning your boss or a coach, it can be a boss, it can be a coach, it can be a parent, can be a friend, can be a sibling or even a child. But if they walked into the room right now, you would know that you're not going through it alone. You would have that feeling like there's somebody that has my back that's here and I can get through anything. I want you to reflect on who that person is right now. And then I want you into the poll everywhere, and we'll give you a minute or two. But I want you to say them. If you feel comfortable, please say their name. But if not, that's fine. But what is it that makes them that leader to you? And not we only have a limited amount of time, so not a paragraph or it won't get up. But what is it that they do that they're providing you that makes you feel full, that makes you feel seen, that makes you feel like you're not going through it alone? Consistent support, integral, Howard, warm, non-judgmental, empathy support, consistent support. They listen, though they uplift. Yeah, feel free to upvote other ones. Listen, help meet goals, validating, warm, encouraging, available. I'm going to go down. Acceptance, understanding, support, encouragement, guidance. They listen, uplift, rate, tribe, listen, tall, pull me up with them instead of using my accomplishments for their own gain. That's so big. Positive, encouraging, believes in me, inspirational, approachable, flexible, recognizing the hard work, holds space, emotional intelligence, firm, but has empathy and compassion as well. They see and understand me, so their leadership is not general, but specific to me, that they make you feel seen. So I want us to take a moment and just kind of recognize two things. Definitely consistent support appears to be one that's constantly coming up. Having that emotional intelligence, but it might not look the same for all of us. And what I find elevating, which as you can probably tell is upbeat, funny, like joyous, might be draining to somebody else. Also, it's not that it is that we either are or aren't. Um, Often, sometimes, in some situations, these people might be elevating, and in other times, they might drain us. So let's now test the science. Thinking of those people, I want you to upvote what the research says these people impact our lives. I want you to upvote all of the ones that you would say they also impact your lives. Do they provide you with stronger relationships? If you think about them in their life, does that increase your stronger relationships? Upvote it and upvote all of the ones that you agree with. So more than one, because research says in some way they impact all of these. So well-being, social support, stronger family relationships, job satisfaction, team coherence, well-being, social support. I mean, some people are adding additional ones, that's fine. But you can just also click the ones that are there. So again, I don't know if everybody's on the poll everywhere. I was trying to get it to have the percentages. Unfortunately, we couldn't. If we just raised our hand in the room, that would be great. But as we look at the science, it appears that having these people in our lives does provide us with that elevating support, that elevating trust. So part of what we want you to be thinking about is how do you get these people in your life? How do you get that regular dose of them? And the way we're going to be closing today is how do you set these people up for success so that many people can be this for you and you can have that in many different situations of your life so that it doesn't lead to problems or any other situations like that. But I just noticed the comment, doesn't the limitation of selection create bias? Yes, I just wanted us to like kind of look at the ones that the researchers said were there, but feel free to add your own. But at least in terms of those, it looks like 40 plus for most of them also agreed with to kind of test what it is that they were reflecting on as to when we look at our own lives. So now I want you to think about what enables you to be that person. So this is one of the surveys that they often use to identify who would they say is an elevating leader. And I want you to think about how would the people in your life that you interact with day in and day out, how would they answer this about you? And what is it that you need to make sure that you're able to bring that. Because again, some days we're able to do it. Like for myself, when I get sleep, when I have my morning exercise and my morning like prayer and meditation routine, I can be this. When I don't get sleep, when I don't get my exercise, if I eat a cheesesteak, it actually drags me down. So all of that can get in the way of me being able to be that elevating leader. So think through for yourselves, what is it that you need to be that rather than the mundane or the one that's sucking the energy out of the room. But now we're going to take a look at a skill. And this is a skill. I'm originally from Philly. Oh, Jenna, yes, I'm originally from Philly. If I eat a cheesesteak, that's the end of my day. I am not accomplishing anything anymore. Maybe when I was younger, I used to be able to. So now we're going to go through a skill, and this is about how can we elevate others. And this skill is a simple skill, but it's one that honestly changed my life. And I will say, since 2020, when we started having this major rush and major demand and stress trainings, it's the one that we most consistently get feedback. That actually changed my life. That was a game changer for me. And it's really surprising because it's not a skill that you would expect to be in a stress-related training. So to make this real world, I want you to reflect on a relationship that is truly meaningful to you. And maybe it's not as strong as you wish it was. And I want you to jot that down, just have that name in the back of your mind as we're going through this lesson. Now, I want you to imagine that you're stressed. You got a lot going on. You're feeling overwhelmed. There's so much going on in your life right now. And they walk into their office and they say, David, Jenna, Casey, I have a really big problem. Can you help me? They're picking you out of everyone in the world to help them with this problem. My guess is all of you would stop and give your full attention to be with them in that moment and to help them through that problem. You would turn off your phone, put down your laptop, and give them that focus. Now I want you to imagine that they came to you with good news, that you're just as stressed, that you're so overwhelmed, but something good happened. And they pick you out of everyone in the world to say, hey, Jenna, David, Casey, something good happened. Do you stop and give them the same level of attention? Because how we answer that second question is as important, if not more important, to how we answered that first question in terms of that health of the relationship, our overall well-being for ourselves and that other person, but also our ability to optimize stress. And we're going to take a look at this. So this skill is called active constructive responding. And my guess is many of you are familiar with it, or at least somewhat familiar with it. It's based on the work of Shelley Gable. But what we're going to look at is how does this impact stress? And why is this so important in impacting stress? And basically what her research shows is that there's 4 ways that we tend to respond when someone picks you out of everyone in the world to share good news with. Only 1 out of those 4 leads to greater connection, intimacy, well-being, satisfaction within the relationship, trust. For them that trust you and come to you with problems, only 1 out of the 4 will do that. Decreases the number of conflict, increases their resilience, and increases our ability to manage and optimize stress. The other 3 does the opposite. It decreases trust, decreases resilience, decreases our ability to handle stress, decreases our connection, intimacy, relation satisfaction, and increases the number of conflicts within that relationship. And the punchline of this is it's for both people. So how you respond when someone else chooses you to share good news with, not only do they get all of this if you respond in the right way, you also get it. So really, in a sense, part of what the skill is just reframing these moments and seeing them as a gift. And this is why this is so important in stress, because when we're stressed, it's very easy to see it as a time suck, that it's taking our time away or taking, our energy away when I need to be focusing on something else. But really, it's an opportunity for you and that other person to get all of those benefits. The Gottmans, who are, world-renowned relationship experts, they have a similar line of research. And what I love about the way that they refer to this is they refer to these moments as bids. And basically, these bids can be as small as, hey, look at that cloud over there. And the way that they describe it is that we're social beings and we don't want to go through the world alone. So when we see something within our world, like, hey, look at that cloud over there, I'm seeing that cloud. Well, what do we want to do? We want somebody else to see it with us. And think for yourself. When's the last time something really exciting or good in your life happened? What's one of the first things that you did? Went into a dark room and just kind of sat there by yourself or watched TV? My guess is you told somebody. You wanted to share that good news with somebody because we're social beings and we don't want to go through life alone. And I do want to ask you, think about who you went to share that good news and who you didn't go to. Like for myself, I tend to call my dad. He's one of the first people that I'll always call because he does the skill. He does it without even realizing he's doing it. My mom, I actually will call my dad and have him relay it to my mom because she does one of the other three styles, which I also used to do, which we'll go through in a bit. But later I'll go through and discuss it with her. But my dad's the one I go to. So think about that for yourself. But the reason why this is so important is that doesn't seem like a big deal. Hey, look at that cloud over there. But the way we respond is letting them know, I'm in the world with you. You're not experiencing that cloud alone. I'm in it with you, and we're experiencing this cloud together. Or it's sending the message, I'm too busy to be in your world. Your world's not important enough. You're going to have to experience that alone. And that cloud might not seem significant, but that relationship, that's also impacting the relationship. And when things are stressful, it is significant because having people that support us, having those that we can rely on when things are hard is critical. So what we're going to do, and we'll do this quickly, but we're going to go through each of these styles, at least three of them. And I'm going to start with the ones that tend to destroy the relationship, especially this one I'm going to start with, because this is the one that we most often do when we think we're doing the skill right, but really we're damaging the relationship. This is known as passive constructive responding. And using that gift metaphor, I want you to imagine that you bought a gift that you were really, really excited to give someone. You put a lot of thought into it. You really care about the other person. Like you've been thinking about this gift for a while. You hand them the gift. They open up the gift. They see it. They go, oh, wow, this is great. They put it aside and then go onto their phone. You entered that interaction up here. How are you leaving that interaction? Down here. So this is known as passive constructive responding. This is when we are saying the right things, but we're not fully in it with them. They can either feel by our energy that we're not in it with them, we're that mundane or deflating energy, or we just kind of switch the channel. We wind up getting distracted by something else and we move on. And again, is that letting them know that we're in it with them? Or are we too busy to be in it with them? And part of what I really want you to reflect on is some of the things that really are causing this, especially today, is technology. It was probably about 10 years ago, I was listening to a podcast, and there was a researcher on it, and they were talking about how kids today are going to be one of the first generation of kids whose parents are physically present, meaning they're in the room, but they're not mentally or emotionally present because they're distracted by their phones or technology. And I mean, if any of you have kids, my guess is if you've been on a playground, you see kids running around and parents around the playground, and what are they all looking at? Their phones. So part of that is really impacted by kids. But actually, the reason why this is so critical in stress training is I realized, so my wife and I, we really work hard to make sure that we're not on our phones or that kind of stuff when we're around our daughter. But at the beginning of COVID, I got assigned to do a 3-hour webinar for the North Carolina National Guard on stress. And I was stressed about this training because I was never on a webinar or rarely on a webinar where like I actually felt like I got something. I always felt distracted or I was doing something else. 3 hours is a long time. Things have really improved since then, but I'm stressed about doing this webinar. So everybody's home and I like to pace as I'm like coming up with my plans. And I'm pacing, doing my work. And my daughter finds her Bluey doll. This is a Gabe endorsement. If you're not watching Bluey, you should be watching Bluey, even if you don't have kids. It's a great show. But she found her Bluey doll and she's like, Daddy, I found Bluey. I'm like, that's great, Sos. Daddy, I found Bluey. She's like, that's wonderful, Sos. Daddy, I found Bluey. And then she goes, Daddy, you're not seeing me. And it hit me because I was looking right at her. She could feel that I wasn't in it with her in that moment. And part of, as we were talking to everyone, setting up this stress training, we realized that like those are moments which, how did I leave that interaction? Luckily, I was able to pull it together, but how would I leave that interaction if I just said, yeah, that's great, Zos, and then went away? Would I feel elevated or would I feel down? Versus sharing in that joy with her, which took less than a minute. How do you think I felt otherwise? It was like a palate cleanser. It gave that boost of emotion and let me know that no matter how this training goes, my daughter's in it with me, my spouse is in it with me, that there's people that I have relationships that care for that are in it with me. And that's what actually led it to becoming into our stress trainings. And again, this is one of the ones that we get the most feedback for. So again, think about that person or think about the people in your lives. How often might we be doing this without realizing it? This is one I also, last example, and then we'll go to the next one. I also realize I do this a lot with my team. We're a virtual team, and they'll often be telling me things on a video as I'm answering an email. And I'm like trying to give like the north-south and like smiling, but they can feel that I'm not listening to them. So it's one of those that we really need to think through. How can we be more present to be there with them in that moment? This next one, just because of time, I'm going to spend a little less time on. This is passive destructive responding. This is where we don't engage in their news at all. It's the I'm busy, I'm working on something. This is also, for those of you who do have kids, like the put on your shoes. Why won't you just put on your shoes? Or finish your homework. And in the work world, we often do this, like, did you finish the report? Again, doing the skill right only takes a moment to be able to do right. The other one where we sometimes fall into this without really realizing we're doing it is when we are a one-upper. So I'm sure all of you have somebody in your life who does this. You don't have to name them, but whatever your news is, if you're going on vacation, they're going somewhere better on vacation. Whatever promotion you got, they just recently got a better promotion where they basically take all the attention away from you and make it about themselves. Now, I want to say that doesn't mean that we're not supposed to like share about ourselves or if we've been somewhere. That's a normal conversation. But basically what it is that as you're leaving that conversation and sharing, you don't want to be bringing them down, that you want them to at least stay as excited, if not more excited. This next one was the one that hit me the hardest. And it was one that, like I have to say, was life-changing for me. And this is active destructive responding. This is where you're really excited to get someone a gift. You give them the gift, you're up here, they open it, they're engaged, but then they start asking questions about like, where did you get this? Did you get this from Walmart? You could have got it on Amazon with a much better deal. And like this version is not even going to be applicable in like a couple of years. Like you should have got the newest version. Like, can we still return it? Because, you know, I just want to look out for you. I don't want you to waste your money on something that's not going to be relevant, where they start pointing out every single problem with that gift. And again, you're starting up here, you're leaving that conversation down here. I first learned this when I was going through grad school, and I just got out of a really long, probably at that point, the longest relationship of my life, where I already had to talk with her dad and like a ring and all that kind of stuff. And as I was hearing this, I honestly felt sick to my stomach. And I pictured me and my ex in a car and her saying to me, can't you ever just be happy for me? Can't you ever just be happy? Because the problem was that I wasn't doing it to be a jerk, but this was the style that I tended to fall into because I saw myself as a problem solver. And I genuinely believed that being there for other people, being a good boyfriend, being a good husband, being a good friend means telling people what they don't want to hear. So she would come to me really excited about something, but she didn't think it all the way through. So me being the good whoever, I would let her know all the things she didn't think through. She would come to me really excited about something else. And again, I would help her to problem solve that good news, figure out all the things she didn't think through. Excited about something else? Down here. And what do you think happened? she stopped coming to me and started going to somebody else, which wasn't funny at the time. But I realized in that moment that I was constantly doing this to her. I was destroying her good news. But what's the underlying message that I was sending? I'm not in it with you. I don't want to share in those hypo. Only bring that to me if you've already thought everything through. And just from a practical standpoint, when we're excited, when we really want to like just celebrate with somebody, are we even open to problem solving? So part of what it is that we want to be aware of is when people are excited, what are they coming to us for? Are they coming to us to problem solve, or are they coming to us because they want to know that they're not going through the world alone? That they're sharing in that joy, that they're sharing in that life with somebody else. So that's when we celebrate later. When they're down here, we can say, hey, remember that new job you were thinking of taking? Here's a few things that I think we should think through before you commit to that. So this one is active destructive responding, and it's the one that I used to fall into a lot. The only one that will build the relationship is active constructive responding. And it's relatively simple. We do it all the time without realizing it. I was doing it when I couldn't find problems, when I wasn't busy, when I wasn't stressed, and when I wasn't tired. Like we know how to do it. It's how we're taught how to open a gift. Just showing authentic, enthusiastic support. Maybe asking some questions to help them to relive the experience. Or being curious and helping them to like think through like what are other benefit things. Ideally, all the skill is they're this excited, and hopefully they will leave that interaction as excited, if not a little bit more excited. And why is this critical? Think about those exciting moments in your life. When you think back on them, often we also think back to the people we shared that experience with. And each time we think of that experience, that relationship becomes stronger. So often we might miss those experiences, but we are able to connect ourselves to that other person in that with that person by doing this skill right. So I want to be clear, this is hard. And part of what we want you to be reflecting on is who are the important people in your life and what causes you to fall into one of those three styles that damage the relationship, and also what will enable you to practice ACR. And I want you to take a moment. I put a worksheet in there. They also added the PDF in the, what's it called? The sheet. But I want you to take a moment and just kind of reflect. You can write things down, which is always helpful, or not just kind of reflecting, but what is it that leads you into one of the three styles that damage it? And what is it that breaks you out? And I do want to make a plug for kids. I used to teach this to kids all the time. And anytime I taught it to kids, they would often say, can you please teach my mom this? Can you please teach my dad this? And I never had that opportunity, but anytime I do have the opportunity to teach parents, I always make that plug for kids because they are really impacted by this. So I'm going to take a moment. If there are any quick questions here, feel free to add them, and then we'll get into our last skill and then provide additional time for questions. But any pushbacks or questions around this skill?
So far, I'm not seeing any questions about this skill, but if you have them, feel free to put them in. I popped the link in again. This is a great worksheet.
Thank you. So the two that we often get is, so I feel typically people start in sharing mode and then shift into problem solving mode. I also feel when people tell that, I also feel people have tells that can show where they are, even if they don't know. Is there any way you can post the other link earlier? I got dropped before downloading it. I believe
Yes, I'll do that.
and yes, sleep, feeling, not feeling well, all of that is big. And I do want to say, like, there are limits that we need to set. And with all of this, there are limits that we need to set. That there are times where there is an email that we have to get off right now, or there is a report that we need to do. If my daughter walked into the room at, I forget what time this started, at 9:09, I would have to say, Zoe, you're going to have to tell me afterwards. I'm about to go live. So there are those levels that we need to be aware of, but I really push not to let ourselves off the hook if we can. There's one story that always like really drives this skill home for me. I was doing a training at Fort Jackson. I was by myself in a hotel room. I'm a giant Eagles fan, and the Eagles were playing the Giants, and they had this epic comeback where Deshaun Jackson ran a punt return back. And I'm jumping up and down, like super excited. And what do you think I wanted to do? I called my brother. He was with a bunch of our other friends. I wasn't expecting him to answer, but he picked up the phone. He cheered with me, passed the phone around to everyone, sharing that with them. And like, we're all really excited sharing in that moment. And every single time now I see that replay, I think of my brother. And my relationship gets closer with my brother, even though he didn't need to answer. And I knew he was with another bunch of people. Well, actually, a couple months later than that, I'm doing another training on the East Coast, big one. My brother's in Vegas. He winds up winning a bunch of money, not paying attention to what time it is, calls me at 4 in the morning when I'm like about to do one of the bigger trainings of my life. I would be incredibly appropriate for me to say, Dom, what are you doing calling me? Like, I need to go to bed. That could have been an argument. But because I realized that I'm thinking of him in that, I wanted him to think of me when he was experiencing that. I already was awake. Should he have called me? No, but I already was awake. So rather than it being an argument, us sharing in that together and that sharing that moment, hopefully he thinks of me when he thinks of that experience as I think of him when I think of that experience. And that's where this relationship becomes stronger and stronger and stronger as our lives go on. So really at the core of the skill, this is our strategic habit framework, is basically noticing these cues, noticing these opportunities and having a strategy in place, the when thens or the if thens that help us to be present with them. When I notice I'm looking at my phone when someone's talking to me, then I got to put my phone in my pocket. And the beauty of this skill is that reward, that boost of dopamine is built into the skill. And you're going to notice it. If you didn't know of this skill before, you are going to notice when somebody shares good news with you and you're doing it right, you're going to feel that connection to that. You're going to feel that elevating energy, that positive social relationship energy. You're going to feel that. Sometimes it's a little uncomfortable, at least for me, but you'll feel that deeper connection. You will also realize when you share good news to somebody else, when they do one of those other three styles, and you're going to get mad. You're going to feel that drop. Try to forgive them. They're like me prior to me learning that skill. They just don't know yet. So being aware of all of that is critical in us being able to help others. Now, what does this have to do with stress and leadership? We tied it in a little bit already, but one of the stories that I think really drives home why this is so important is I was doing a training at Fort Campbell. This was a part of the Army's Master Resiliency Training. It's actually the second ever training that this program ever happened. And we were doing a VTC in Fort Campbell. And before going, everyone's like, that's the 101st Airborne. You know, they're not going to buy into the stuff. They're going to be a really tough audience. And they actually were great. They really bought into the mental fitness stuff. But on the last day, we covered the skill. And there was a good conversation about like, well, this is great at home, but not up and down the chain of command. And like, what are the left-right limits, which we did. We had to establish those left-right limits, and it was a good conversation. But afterwards, we were getting ready to take a group picture, and we were in this room, and all those plaques back there are like Purple Hearts, Medal of Honors, literally stories of people diving on grenades to save other people. I'm new to working with the Army, and as I'm reading this, I'm just like in awe. Like, what would it take for me to dive on a grenade for somebody or a group? And there was this older first sergeant. He didn't really talk much during the course, but he saw me sitting there and he said, Gabe, that's why that last skill you taught us is so important. You don't dive on a grenade for a leader you fear. You dive on a grenade for a leader you love. And this is a skill that shows that love, or your battle buddies. This is a skill that shows that connection, that builds that relationship, that builds that love. Now, at the time, I was running a high school program, leadership program, where we trained this type of stuff to other kids within the community of Camden, New Jersey. And I wasn't asking them to dive on grenades for me, but I was asking them to sacrifice time to put together programs that I really hoped would be impactful. Were they doing that because they felt like they had to? Or were they doing it because they knew that I was in it with them? that I wanted them to do the best job that they could so that they could change lives and really make an impact in the community. That's where this skill comes in, because this is developing that trust, that relationship that provides us with the opportunity to know that other people have our back as we are going through life. And that's more important when we're going through stressful times than any. So now we're going to take a look. We're going to kind of shift, I guess, perspectives. So we've been looking at how do we elevate others? How do we make sure we are the people that are elevating others? Now I want us to reflect on who are the people that we want to be elevating us? And who are the people that we want to have our backs as we are going through the world and as we are going through life? Because sometimes things are going to be great, and sometimes things are going to be really, really rough. Who are the people that we want to have our six? So now I'm going to ask you to think through, who do you want to be on your stress team? And to get us started, to help us to really reflect on what that is, we're going to watch a great philosopher, or at least in Philadelphia, a great philosopher. His name is Rocky Balboa. So as you're watching this, I want you to reflect on, how is Rocky being a part of his son's stress team?
You ain't gonna believe this. Well, you used to fit right here. I'd hold you up and say to your mother, this kid's gonna be the best kid in the world. This kid's gonna be somebody better than anybody ever knew. And you grew up good and wonderful. It was great just watching you every day. It was like a privilege. Then the time come for you to be your own man and take on the world, and you did. But somewhere along the line, you changed. You stopped being you. You let people stick a finger in your face and tell you you're no good. And when things got hard, you started looking for something to blame, like a big shadow. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you got to be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that. I'm always going to love you no matter what. No matter what happens. You're my son, you're my blood. You're the best thing in my life. But until you start believing in yourself, you ain't gonna have a life. Don't forget to visit.
So I want you to think through, how is Rocky a stress teammate in that video? Because often so far we've been talking about people who uplift us, people who share in the good with us, and that being a way to elevate us. But when you were thinking about your elevating leaders, it was also those people that held us accountable. It was also those people that let us know that when we were stepping out of line, that they were able to bring us back. And this is known as the tail light effect. So if you're to think about a tail light, who is usually the last one to know that your tail light's out? You. And we need to rely on other people to let us know our tail light's out. And if somebody doesn't let us know that our tail light's out, then we usually find out when it's too late. In the same way, this is a stress continuum. And basically, there's all different levels of stress, when sometimes stress can be really, really dangerous. Sometimes we don't have enough stress. Stress is our body and brain enabling us to perform. But when we're really, really low, or when we're running hot, sometimes we don't realize it. And we're not self-aware, and we need to rely on others to let us know what those orange and red flags are. So as you're thinking through, who are the people that you want to be on your stress team, I also want you thinking through, who are the people that you want to be on the lookout, that you feel comfortable calling you out, letting you know that when things aren't right, that they need to step in. And part of this is, and I really want to be clear, part of this can be like small things. I did a podcast with the CDP folks, and they talked about Mamma Mia. I think that's the title of the podcast. So basically, I tend to get excited. I'm Italian. I tend to talk with my hands, if you haven't noticed. And sometimes I can come off aggressive when really I'm just excited or feeling passionate about something. So literally, I have everyone on my team, not everyone, but a bunch of people on my team. And we have 3 cues. One of them is they'll just go like this, Mamma Mia. That lets me know, all right, Gabe, take a breath, calm down. They'll G-chat me, Mamma Mia, or they'll just kind of give me one of these if I'm just going too fast, because I also tend to talk fast. But think about this. So they're set up to let me know when I am coming off aggressive. Now let's imagine I didn't set them up and we're in a meeting and I'm coming off aggressive. Think about all the mental energy that has to go into, do we tell him, do we not tell him? I need to cue him now, but I don't want him now to get angry with me. Like there's so much mental energy that goes into that rather than setting them up on the front end. And it's not just for small things like this. This is also for something happened in my life and I am really, really isolating. And I'm by myself and I need somebody to reach out. But I might not realize that I'm isolating or needing someone to reach out. Or all of a sudden I'm constantly running hot. I'm constantly getting defensive or constantly getting angry. But I don't realize that I'm doing that. And if I don't have people in my life looking out for me, it's really, really hard sometimes for us to be aware. So sometimes when we need help, we're the last ones to know. But it's hard for those in our life because there's so many ways that us trying to intervene can go wrong. So it's hard to be those people that are going to help them. So that's what this skill does, is it basically helps us to set up the people in our life that are on the lookout for us. So we're going to do this like we've been doing the other Poll Everywhere things. And I want to start by having you put into Poll Everywhere, who are the people in your life that you want to be on your stress team? And this is the people that are pumping you up, that are there to support you, but also the people that you want in your life to hold you accountable. And think through different scenarios or different situations within your life. Think through not only, I want to make sure I'm still on Zoom, okay, because my screen got switched. I want you to think through not only, those really, really high or really, really low, but think about your work. You're about to go into a session with someone. Who are the people that can let you know, hey, Kelly, you need to take a breath. You seem a little hot. Or hey, Kelly, why don't you just go outside for a minute and just kind of refresh? So thinking through who are the people that you want on the lookout for you that will be there for you and help you in these different situations. And often they're people that we're really close with. Like I see a lot of spouses here. Also, I'm going to challenge you to think through what are the things that isn't ideal for your spouse to let you know. I have a friend, Scott. He's the one that we often are in social situations. He's the one that I like to cue me that I might need a water instead of another drink. Because I take it differently from him and the other way. So thinking through those different situations and those different areas of who it is that we want to get this information from. So the next part of this is, how do we set them up for success in terms of when are they going to interact? So and this is the one that I really want you to be specific. You don't have to put your name, but this is one that I really do think helps people to be aware of different situations that they might not realize is a red or orange flag, or I'm also going to say a blue flag, where we're isolating, where we're down, where we're low energy, where we're not being that elevating leader, that we're kind of more being that mundane rather than the one bringing us down. But what are the orange and red flags that you want them looking out for? So maybe it's your tone of voice, maybe it's how you're reacting. So when they notice me pulling away, when I'm overly cynical, when I disassociate, when I'm being negative, when I'm irritable, when I'm having an attitude, when I'm negative, tired, and snapping. So all of these are critical. When my door's shutting more often, all of a sudden, usually my door's open and now it's down. When I'm avoiding them, When I'm irritated, snacking more. That's a great cue that I wouldn't have thought of. And that's actually one that I need. When I have a bad meeting, I go into my kitchen and just start eating. I need someone to call me out on that. Thank you for sharing that. Not talking, door closed, irritable at home, trail of thought, emotional. When I'm overwhelmed. One I recently had when politics comes up, that could be a good one, that you just have someone looking out for you if you don't want to get into those conversations and that. When I get quiet, when I'm short with the dogs, negative responses, that look of defeat when I am quiet and isolate. So again, all of these are huge to have people there for us. At work, not getting my notes done. At home, spending too much time on my phone. Just think about that. You're spending too much time on your phone, setting someone up on the front end to say, hey, I noticed on your phone a lot. This is what I want you to do, versus them noticing it and not feeling comfortable to say that. So now, what is it that you want them to do? So what are the strategies that you would like them to use to pull yourself out? This is a quote a friend actually said, sometimes when we are at our most unlovable is when we need love the most. And one of the things as human beings we often do wrong here, for good reason, is we treat people how we want to be treated, how we want to be treated, which I believe is like a good thing to do, treating others as you would like to be treated. But that actually doesn't work on a stress team. Because the way that I want to deal when I'm going through something really, really difficult might not be the way that you want to deal with it. And part of that is setting us up for success. For myself, when I am really sad, I need time alone in a room to figure it out. Engaging with me, bothering me just kind of makes it worse. I need to figure it out on my own. And I have my systems and my levels of support to be able to deal with that. Other people, they need that constant engagement. They need that constant support, or they want people bringing dinners or bringing, things with them. I had a friend who just really went through something really, really difficult with a spouse. He told me flat out, I don't want you asking about her. I just want you, let's just talk about funny things. Let's just talk about funny things that takes my mind off of it. So I text them every day, but I text them about something funny, clips of comedians, clips of things that we like, that lets him know I'm there, but it's an escape that he doesn't need to listen for it. So all of these can be good. Support, validation, be honest and direct with love. I love you, do not react. Ask if I like to go for a walk. Remind me that I need to feel better, encourage me to do it. Provide guidance, be honest with myself. Cuddles from my husband. A hug can be huge. A hug again gives us that boost of oxytocin that literally changes our physiological response of stress. Listen, give me a different perspective, self-doubt, provide encouragement, kindness delivery, check in. Hey, let's take a minute. Something to distract me. Knock and ask if everything's okay. So setting themselves up, yes, obviously, depending on who's hugging, this is someone you're setting yourself up to, you're saying, hey, I just need you to give me a hug when you're seeing this, to be very clear on that. Watching the kids. So all of these are things that we're setting up. So just putting this all together, you now have the person, let's say it's your spouse, and you now have the cue. I started stress eating. I'm eating all the time. And now you're giving them the response that they need to do. So maybe it's not asking you anything. It's just coming over and say, hey, can I give you a hug? Now they're set up for success where they notice the cue, they know what to do, and it's now providing that boost of dopamine that helps that to make that connection and that boost of oxytocin that lets them know that you're not in it alone. And I highly recommend sometimes setting people up to do that ACR skill. Tell me something you're excited about so we can share that with, and that can be one. So this is the hardest part. We're going to take questions, and as we're taking questions, I want you to text or email that person right now. So whoever those people were that you chose to be on your stress team, this is the most important thing. I want you to email them or text them now saying, hey, I'm in this training with this annoying bald guy, and he's making me text someone to be on my stress team. So out of everyone in the world, I am choosing you to be on my stress team, and I'll explain later today the setup that time. So as you're doing that, I want to thank you for this time. I believe you have my information if you need any other questions. If you have any other feedback for myself, from this training, please. We love to hear that. It really means a lot to get that feedback. But I'll pause now and take questions for the rest of the time.
Well, Dr. Paoletti, as always, you do not disappoint. What a great way to kick off the day. We love Gabe's energy. And it was really fun for us on the podcast team to watch you today because we see now the hands really are visual versus in the podcast, we couldn't really see what you were doing. So that was amazing. I have a few questions lined up, and if more come in, I will ask those as well. A lot are actually on the topic of ACR. So kind of uses for it and some like parameters. So would it be appropriate to ask my staff to complete this form related to their experiences of my responses? So can you use this within a work team kind of very um, intentionally?
Is that the elevating leadership one question
I think that was actually the
or the
uh,
stress team? I'll answer both. Yes.
yeah, I mean, I guess I think when you
Yeah.
were kind of talking about the different, like, could you have like conversations about that? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the stress team definitely, and I think it's also one thing I didn't say, which I highly recommend. If there is someone in your life that you want to be on the stress team with, so let's say you're noticing cues, you want to intervene, but you don't feel like you have that opening, you asking them to be on your stress team and sharing that vulnerability makes them way more likely to do that. By me asking my team to let me know, hey, this is a cue that I know sometimes goes wrong. It's nothing personal or inappropriate. It's just, hey, I get excited. Letting me know that, that then opens the door for them to be comfortable saying, hey, these are my cues. These are the things that I'm doing wrong there. In terms of the elevating leadership one, like what is the impact that I'm having on you? That depends on, your work culture and rules within that. My advice though is I love 360 feedback because again, part of that reason why we have that stress team is because we're only able to see part of our experience and there's things we might be missing. I just always recommend making it optional rather than something that they have to do. So that's just me talking. Also, I think it's really good if you're going to ask for that feedback to make it anonymous as well so that they feel comfortable giving authentic, but that I would defer to whatever your rules are within your organization. It's great though to ask your family when are the situations that you're elevating them and not. Because that can let you know a lot that might be transferring over into the work world as well.
Absolutely. And then another one, this is something that was kind of on my mind. Love this work. It's truly needed right now. How do you balance ACR with those who are distractors, like always coming by to chat about random things? And I would just say even just in general, like if you're really being consistent with kind of
Yeah.
using that kind of style. I love to be present and excited for people, but if I'm present each time, I would never get my job done during the week, causing more personal stress and working even more hours. So we live this distracted life, and we're pinged and we're pulled, and we've got two screens going. So how do we balance using?
The great thing about the skill is I just gave 3 strategies to get them to stop coming to you. Joking, joking. Um, so I think part of
So
it,
use the
yeah,
other,
the
and then they'll
other.
stop.
You can just say,
Got
oh,
it.
it's great, and they go
Okay.
on your phone. Eventually, they'll stop coming to you. Or let me point out all the problems with that. No, I'm joking. I genuinely believe in terms of we are all leaders all the time. I moved from Philadelphia to Florida, and one of the biggest differences, like you can't go in any checkout line without hearing about someone's family or like it's all conversations that at first I wanted to rush through. I genuinely believe like if we want the world to be a better, letting other people know that they're not in it alone. It's a national, we have 2 national crises, stress and isolation. Anytime we can be there for
Mm,
others is important. But I think what we want to do is set limits when they're not coming to us excited. So having that conversation either on the front end or back end and trying to set barriers that when I don't want people coming into my office and letting, pinging me to tell me that stuff. I actually have a door now on my office that during this that lets my daughter know, hey, this is not a time to come in because I want to be there with her, but
right.
there's sometimes where she can't come in. So trying to set up those environmental barriers and setting those limits can be big on the front end, so that we're not destroying the relationship over time.
That makes a ton of sense. And then are there recommended reading citations for the model,
The ACR
the
model.
ACR model set? Yes,
There
sorry.
are, I can't articulate them off the top of my head. I do believe that worksheet that we sent should have references
Okay.
underneath, or if you go to HPRC and just type in ACR somewhere, there will be references within there that will provide that information. And then the other thing that I do want to say is if you did notice that you've been doing one of these styles in certain relationships or throughout your life, the good news is this is an amazing tool to build new relationships. And just finding things that people are excited with, you'll feel that connections or to repair and connections. I mean, relationships are a process, they kind of go up and down. So there's always an upper time to build a stronger one.
Fantastic. We are out of time. A couple more good questions. So sorry we didn't get to hit them. Thank you so much, Dr. Paoletti.
Thank you,
If you
everyone.
have not listened to his episode or you just missed that voice and you just need to hear Mamma Mia, check it out. And I will turn things over now to Dr. Kelly Cressman.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.